What's going on, everybody? Isaac here with Civil Engineering Academy. Excited to be with you again with another podcast episode. Today, I bring another awesome guest on. Her name's Bahaar Taylor, and she's awesome. So we connected because she was a new member, new face of the ASCE, and I wanted to bring her on to talk about her, not only her journey with that, but also her, she's a mom. She balances her career and being a mother, wife, and all the responsibilities that come along with that. So it's been a fun episode to hear how she balances all of those things. But she is a project engineer that lives in Vancouver, Washington, and she's worked on all kinds of projects, existing buildings, rehabilitations, forensic structural investigations, all of the fun stuff that you can get into with structural engineering. Even seismic evaluations and more. So done a lot of stuff. Her experiences with a large variety of different types of projects and material, mixed use, spiritual, religious, higher education buildings, like all kinds of stuff that she's involved with that comes along with structural engineering. She graduated cum laude from BYU, Brigham Young University, in civil and environmental engineering, with an emphasis in structures. And she is very active locally and nationally on some big societies like the ASCE, the NCSEA, and the SEI. So she's quite involved with a lot of societies on top of being a mother and running her job and, her projects. So it's a busy life over there. She also does a lot of volunteer work and enjoys meeting weekly with the youth of her church, loves playing tennis, and loves being in the outdoors. So just very well-rounded, and she was a pleasure to interview and get to know. And I think you will also love to get to know her as well. So Bahaar Taylor is coming right up. You're going to enjoy this interview about all the things that she has going on and how she juggles and balances all these things in her life. And it's something that maybe we could all pay a little more attention to balance in our own life. So having said all that, excited to share this one with you, and it's coming right up. All right. Welcome to the Civil Engineering Academy podcast. Bahaar, how's it going?
Going well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. So I thought it would be nice to have you on our show. It's always fun to have the new faces of the ASCE, which they kind of publish it out there, and we connected through that. But I wanted to connect with you and kind of talk about your journey into civil engineering and being part of that, as well as kind of where you are and where you're headed. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So Bahaar, why don't you tell us a little bit about your own journey into civil engineering, why this was an interesting field for you, what drummed up interest to even do it, and how you're liking it.
Sure. Yeah. So I kind of got into civil engineering by accident a little bit. I started college as a math major and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, but I knew I liked math and that side of things. And after taking a year and a half of classes, when we started getting into higher level proofs classes, I realized that I wanted something a little more practical, but still math applied. So I took I had a semester in college where I just tried, one class and a few majors that I identified. There was a business class, a film class, because I thought about animation and all kinds of. One of the classes I took a biology class. And anyway, so kind of tried everything. And one of the classes I took was a civil engineering class. And it was just a seminar where we had speakers from different areas and specialties in civil engineering would come and speak to us about what they did. So a weekly hour lecture. And I remember just in that class, there were so many different things that I heard that I thought, well, I could see myself doing that or this one or this one. And there's one in particular that really stood out to me. That was a forensic structural engineer. And all the projects he talked about, were so fascinating me. I wish I remembered who it was. I don't remember that. He talked about a project he did for an insurance claim where a car drove on top of a house, and he figured out
Oh my gosh.
the structure, for an insurance claim, or there's a fire in the building, what the or flood or something like that. So, and then I found a sense of community there, and I started taking civil engineering classes and found that I enjoyed it and I was good at it. So
that's awesome.
And actually ended up, after I graduated, I worked at a company for a couple of years where we did maintenance projects, and then I switched to a firm that actually I got to do some forensic projects as well.
Wow, that's awesome. So you just enjoyed math, and that kind of took you into this arena. Is that accurate? Did you have a father or anyone else in engineering at all?
No.
Any examples there?
No. In fact, I grew up in India, where culturally, I don't know if you've heard the stereotype, but engineering or Indian parents want their kids to be their doctors.
Oh yeah, engineer or doctor.
Yeah, and so I actually was the opposite, where I was like, I'm never going to be an engineer or a doctor.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to fight the system, but I loved it. So my dad is a very art oriented person. He's a photographer. So none of that at all in my family. But
that's interesting. So, wow. So, okay. And now fast forward to today, what are you doing now for work? I know you're also a mother. So, as a female engineer, you balance a lot of family and career stuff going on. So what's going on in your world with that?
Yeah. So since I graduated, I've worked full time as a structural engineer. And I have 2 kids now. I have a boy who's 2 and a little bit, 2 years old, and then I have a newborn, 8 weeks old.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm currently on a maternity leave, and I will be going back to work as a project engineer Port of Long Beach. So.
And it sounds like maternity leave is very generous, which is nice to see companies doing. So
yeah, so it's been I think Washington, it's a state of Washington program, and they have one of the most leaves. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what are the challenges you see women have in engineering, and what would you say to encourage women to follow the path in engineering if that's the route they'd like to go?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I've seen is having someone to look up to that, I guess, looks like you, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And for interesting, I grew up in India, so I have a different culture and background, as well as being a woman in engineering. And so I've always appreciated if I can see a woman in leadership, and that could be me. I think it helps me to know that there are women that can do that. I've had some interesting experiences at job sites sometimes when I'll go out, because when I design projects, I also go out on site visits.
Sure.
On site. And I've had sometimes comments where, I've had a contractor say, "Oh, you're too pretty to be up here," or something like that. Like, just kind of make you feel like you don't belong there. But I will say, for the most part, I've had positive experiences on a construction site. They're respectful, and they recognize that, yes, I don't look like what they expect an engineer to look like, but
sure. Well, I'm sure all that stuff comes out, especially when you're working around crews. So that's probably something that needs to be worked on. Yeah. How do you balance family, raising children? You have a brand new kid. How do you balance that with work life for women that maybe want to have a family or maybe are in it right now?
Yeah, I think I have been really fortunate to have supportive family. My husband is also a civil engineer. But from the get-go, he's been really supportive of me wanting to have a career. We've never felt like one of our careers was more important than the others. And when we graduated, we moved to Seattle because that's where he got a job. And then I found a job there after. And then I got an opportunity down in Vancouver, Washington, near Portland. And so he quit his job so that I could come here and do this. And so,
really?
Yeah. So we moved down here and
awesome.
It was kind of the opposite, where I had a job and he didn't, and he looked for something and found it here. So he's
That's
always
great.
supportive, or, with the kids, we try to share that 50-50. So, there's no, with our kids, we both do bedtime, or we both share the responsibilities equally. Like some things, mom can do, but in general, we try to share that equally. And, if someone needs to take the kids to a doctor's appointment, we'll either
team it.
I take turns. And so that has been really helpful. And then I also have family support and my mom helping watch kids and his mother. So my mother-in-law will both have
That's great.
Take care of people at work. So.
We just had a new baby boy, so I definitely understand the challenges of family and career and stuff. And it gets a little wild, but you kind of just make it work. So
yeah,
that's great. You guys have that figured out.
Yeah, we'll try to stagger schedules. One person go to work earlier, one can stay work later, and
gotcha.
Things like that. We'll make it work.
Well, tell me a little bit more about how you became the face. You came into the Oregon ASCE in your leadership position there. And I know you probably had kids by then, so you had to balance that kind of stuff too. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I started with ASCE when I was in college. Actually, the seminar that I talked about, that was an ASCE seminar. Back in college, that class that I did. And BYU, the university that I went to, has, I believe still, but at the time that I was there, we had the largest student chapter of ASCE. And so that was kind of the sense of community that I was talking about when I started going to that seminar. I ran for president as a student for the student chapter. And so I was the president of the student chapter there, and just got really involved with ASCE when I was in college, went to the conferences, and actually my first internship in structural engineering was through someone that I met at a conference of ASCE when I was in Arizona. So he just kind of was a big part of my career as my undergraduate experience. And so I decided I wanted to keep with it after college. So
great.
When I was in Seattle, I was involved with the younger member group that they have. And then when I moved to Vancouver, we're in the Oregon ASCE. It's in Washington, but Southwest Washington, including the Oregon ASCE. And so I started there with the younger member group, and then I got elected as the president-elect for the Oregon chapter, and then was the president. And actually, while I was president is when I had my first kid. So I remember, I think he was maybe a couple months old, and, taking him to board meetings, and he'd just play on the floor while we're having meetings, and you just make it work, So I had him, and then just this past year, I'm wrapping up the year as the past president. This is a 3-year term.
Okay.
So it always has been, a big part of my professional experience.
What are some of the challenges you faced in being in that position? I mean, in terms of what you did, in terms of helping ASCE, what are some challenges that you see?
Like with ASCE specifically, or
or engineering, or getting memberships, or whatever challenges you faced.
Yeah, well, I think membership is always something that we think about. That's top of mind because we're trying to think of how to get people involved and engaged. I found that some of the types of activities and things that people relate to most are those where they can volunteer in the community, and that's probably my favorite type of activity with ASCE is when we kind of get out and give back to the community. And I love doing that in the form of Habitat for Humanity, where we get out and help people build homes. Or I like working with students K through 12 and kind of encourage the next generation, especially if women that. I guess I talked about how I like being able to see women role models, so I try to pass them. Just be like, this could be you, and you can give them a confidence, because I've been in engineering classes where I've been the only female or one of two, or always a minority. So
yes,
it helps to be able to see that there are others like you doing and succeeding.
That's great advice. I'm glad that you're able to do that and get into a leadership role. Definitely need to see more women doing those things. So that's awesome that you were able to balance that. In your current work or in past work, what's been a favorite project you've personally worked on?
Probably one of my favorite projects was it was a little different from what I normally do. So I most of my work has been with buildings, a lot of existing building renovations. This one was unique because it was a bridge, actually, in Hawaii.
Ooh.
And it was so
you didn't have to twist your arm to go look at that one, I bet.
Well, I've been fortunate to do quite a few projects in Hawaii. Fun site visits.
Yeah, schedule those up.
Yes. So this project was there's an existing bridge, and they were building, an older bridge, so they're building a new bridge right next to it and demoing this one. And so my part wasn't in the design of the new bridge, but rather the process for demolition for the existing bridge. And because they needed large cranes and equipment to demo the bridge, they actually had to strengthen it just to get the cranes on. So a bridge that they were about to demolish, they needed to strengthen it first to get the cranes on there. And so my role was to design the strengthening for the bridge that they were about to demolish. And
awesome.
So very interesting, because I worked with moving loads, and which is different from what buildings normally see.
Sure. Wow, that's great.
And just had to try to figure out creative ways, because this is not it's something that we would put on for a matter of days and then it would be demolished. So you design something that's efficient, and you can't make too much money on something. And we had it ended up being a really successful project, and we had everybody was really impressed because we ended up having less than a 16th of an inch of deflection on that bridge.
Wow.
The cranes got on it. So it was just a great project all around. Yeah.
That's so awesome. It's fun to see when projects come together and they work well. So that's great.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit. So you're the 2021 ASCE New Face of Civil Engineering. How did that come about, real briefly? And how has that been a help to you? What has come from being part of that?
Well, so ASCE just has I've been part of our local chapter. Mm-hmm. So as part of the local chapter, we talked about who might be good for that. And we decided to, the chapter submits an application for nominating someone for that. And so
that was you.
Submitted, and they picked me. I mean, they look into a lot of your background in giving back to the community and volunteering, things like that.
That's great.
It's about that, but yeah.
So what has come of that? What's some benefits that you have seen being part of that?
Well, it's, I think recognition has been one of them. They're going to have a big, ASCE has a gala in October, and I'll get to go to that and receive the award. So I guess I have not technically received that award yet.
Okay.
But
well, it's going to go in your office wall or home soon.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was actually an interesting thing where, so I recently applied, and I will be starting a new job at the end of my maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't say anything about this, but when I was interviewing, I guess they looked me up online, and they found that, and so it was interesting coming into the interview process because they already knew something about me and came in
interesting
a little bit about my background and were impressed with that. So thing, I guess, my interview experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been good. I, right after that award was announced, I had a lot of people reach out to me just on LinkedIn and other things, just trying to connect. And so it's nice to be able to get to know. And then, I was able to talk with a few of the other new faces, people that won, and helps to form those connections with other engineers and people that have similar interests and goals.
That's great.
Professional goals.
Yeah, I hope it does really well for you and helping you boost your career and getting it on a resume. And I think that's a really cool thing. So
thank you.
I imagine if people want to do that, they could probably go to the ASCE site and try to fill out something to become a new face of engineering. So
yeah. There's a college edition and a professional edition for anyone. So they choose 10 people each year that are professionals, and then 10 people that are in college. So even college students are able to fill that out and do that.
Well, there you go. Get on it, guys. Get out there, check out things. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you jumping on with me. I think you shared a lot of fun tips. It's fun to hear people's journeys into civil engineering. We definitely need more women in leadership. Is there any last piece of advice that you would have for anyone that's interested in civil engineering to, as they start looking this way?
Yeah, I just, my thought with civil engineering, I feel like it is one of my favorite things about it is just seeing in reality things get built that I've essentially designed, imagined, drawn on paper, and then just getting out to site and being able to see it is very satisfying, very rewarding. If it's something that you want to do, I've learned, sometimes I think people get intimidated by the math or thinking that it's hard, and it is challenging, but I've learned that when you break it down, there's no problem you can't figure out. There's a lot of things I don't know, but there are resources out there to figure them out. And so when things are hard, I've always had that mentality, like, I don't know how to do this, but I know that I can figure it out. And that's helped me kind of tackle.
That's great. And there's always people willing to help. And it's a tight-knit community. If you're part of ASCE, I'm sure there's tons of people there that are willing to help you as well. So people are willing to help you.
Yeah.
Well, Bahaar, what's the best way for our audience to connect with you if they had questions or wanted to reach out to you?
My email is probably the best way to reach out to me.
Okay.
Do you want me to just say
you want to share it?
Sure.
Or we could put it in the show notes, whatever you want to do.
It's just my name. So bahaar.taylor@gmail.com.
Okay. And that's Bahaar.
Yes.
Bahaar.Taylor, Taylor.
Yep.
And I'm sure you're on LinkedIn probably. I imagine.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
There aren't a lot of Bahaar Taylors around. So.
Gotcha. Well, thanks for jumping on with us today. Thanks for sharing your journey. Thanks for talking about being a new face of engineering, women in engineering, family, life things. All of that, those tips are good for people to know. Someone's done it before or is going through it, that people aren't alone in going through these kind of things. So I really do appreciate you jumping on and sharing all your wisdom with us. Thanks, Bahaar.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. See you next time.
Okay.